All right, good morning. Today we are going to be taking a look at fingerprints. And so our next unit focused solely on types of prints that we can actually collect. So not necessarily just your fingerprints, but we could look at lip prints, we could look at shoe footprints, we can look at prints that are created in a surface. Like if you step in the mud, you will actually see your imprint of your shoe. You can look at prints that are created after you have touch something, so like blood. If you've touched blood and then there's a bloody handprint on the wall or on the doorknob. And then there's also the regular fingerprints that you guys know of called latent prints. Those are prints when I touch the desk and I lift my hand, the print is not visible to my naked eye. So we know back from one of our very first units that fingerprints are really good pieces of evidence because it is individualized type evidence. So even our identical twins are going to have different fingerprints. So when we go through this unit, you are going to actually get the opportunity to fingerprint yourself and look at what prints you have, what is your Henry number, and then also practice how they originally would say, does this print match? Now, I know we have a computerized system where we are able to go ahead and find who matches, but you still actually have to have a human after it, a fingerprint specialist, come back and verify that it is truly a match. So on our actual fingerprints, when we look at it, again, it is individual evidence. It is not class. There are certain things about our prints that make us unique. So if you look closely, you see how you have ridges on your fingers? Those ridges, you have valleys and hills. So those ridges create their own individual picture, okay? These are consistent across your life. So even if you cut your finger or something like that, or you maybe burn just the outer layer of that skin, eventually it will heal and you will actually see your print still. Okay, we do have different ways of actually classifying the print based upon the type of print, and then also looking at individual characteristics called minutia. So any type of print, our palms, the soles of our feet, or the ends of our fingers and toes have these ridges. Those ridges form actually when you're a wee little itty baby fetus, and that's in about the 9th or 10th week. Okay, so we want that. We do want to have those ridges because it allows for us to actually grab and control objects. So latent prints, this is one of your key terms you got to know. Latent prints are prints that are there, we just can't see with our naked eye. So when I touch the door or I touch my phone, I am transferring some of the sweat and oils from my skin to that surface. The image of my print is then retained on that surface. And so what I could actually do is dust it with a powder, and that might be a gray powder or it might be a fluorescent powder that then allows for me to visualize that print. So you can see the police officer in the picture is actually dusting for prints, and when he actually identifies a print, he will lift it, which means he's going to take it from the surface of the car, lift it, usually using tape, and then that way he can actually run it through the system and see if he has a match. We can use powder or we can actually use chemicals. So we will actually use powder in our labs. We will use ninhydrin, iodine, and cyanoacrylate is our super glue. We will do all of those different tests in our lifting prints lab. Now each one of those are good for different reasons, okay? One is actually going to disappear, so you won't see any remnants. One allows for us to put a bunch of objects in a chamber and super glue it so I don't have to dust the entire surface. The print will actually pop. And then some will actually disappear over a period of time. So depending upon the surface, whether it is a glass surface, a rough surface, maybe it's paper, maybe it is paint or a wall, those objects require different tools. And so you guys will actually look at those in your pre-lab, which will be coming up here in a couple days. So each one of these, you'll look at, okay, why do I use it? What are the advantages? What surfaces does it work on? And then how is it visualized? Okay, but no matter what, all those techniques allow for us to see latent prints. A patent print, this is a print that we can actually see without having to dust. So if you look, you have a shoe print that was made from mud, or a bloody footprint, a bloodied handprint. Those are prints that now are visualized, okay? It's just like if you were wearing lipstick and you took a drink out of a glass, your lips, that print, that pattern that's on your lips are now visible on the other surface. So that is visible without any added techniques. Whereas our latent prints, we had to do a technique in order to visualize it and then be able to lift it. Okay, these are two-dimensional impressions, okay, so they're 2D, okay, not 3D. For our plastic prints, these are 3D. So this is when, if you are outside and maybe it had rained recently and the person leaves through the woods, you might actually have a print in the mud. We can then use clay, we can use putty or wax, where we'll actually pour it in it, that indentation, let it harden, and then we can lift it, okay? Shoes can be individualized, okay? As long as we have the cast as well as the shoe in question from our suspect, we can individualize it, okay? All right, so we have APHIS or IAPHIS. So APHIS allows for all of our data about criminals to be within one system. So in that one system, we're going to have mugshots, we're going to have any scars or tattoos, any physical characteristics of the individual, the known aliases. Okay, so for example, Eminem, I don't know if any of you guys like rap, his real name's Marshall Mathers. Okay, so when we look at that, or if we look at, I don't know, Snoop Dogg has been Snoop Dogg, he's been all these different names, so it just depends. The big kicker is the fingerprints, okay? So anytime somebody gets booked, that means they get put into the system, okay? And we will have an activity coming up later this week about APHIS, where you'll actually see specifically how it works. Is it a regional system, or is it nationwide, or is it actually worldwide? All right, so our types of fingerprints. So each person, again, has their own unique characteristics, but that doesn't mean that we can't share similar patterns. So some of the patterns that we can have are what are called a loop, an arch, and a whorl. Okay, and we're going to look at some of these different ones and why they're classified that way. We can then further classify them into ulnar or radial loops, a plain whorl central pocket loop, a double loop, an accidental or a plain or tented arch. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a peek at that. So on our fingerprint, the very, very center of our print, where the ridges originate, are going to be our core. That's very center of your fingerprint. There's going to be a region that makes the Greek symbol delta, okay? That is going to be another characteristic that we want to be able to identify, okay? Some prints have a delta, some patterns do not, okay? Our first type is loops. The majority of our population has loops, so 65% have either an ulnar or a radial loop. When you look at this loop, do you see how the ridges come in one side, they go around the core, and they go out the same side? So it kind of just makes a quick loop, okay? I can identify that I have my core, I have the ridges coming in and out the same side, and I have one delta, okay? Those are all characteristics of a loop. Now, I want you to picture placing your thumb down on the screen. If I place my thumb down with my left hand, so let's use our left hand right now, and I place my thumb down, do you see how the loop is coming in and out? It kind of points to the pinky. This would be an ulnar loop if I'm looking at my left hand. If I switch this though, and I use my right hand, do you see how the loop is pointing towards the thumb? This will be a radial loop. All right, our whorls. Take a look at our first picture. What's that and that? Hopefully you're telling me that that's a delta. So So if you look, we now have 2 deltas, whereas our loops only had 1. These will create a complete spiral. Again, they have 2 whorls, and they'll create a complete spiral. About 30% of our fingerprints are whorls. Okay. If you look here, here's a double whorl. Do you see how it spins once and twice? Still 2 deltas right there and right there. For a central pocket versus a plane, the main difference is if you look at the very, very center. Do you see how the central pocket has almost a perfect circle with a dot? That would be a central pocket whorl. An accidental whorl, here's my delta, there's a delta. Do you see how it kind of arches, but then it doesn't finish spinning? Okay, so it's like I have a spin, but not really. This would be accidental whorl. Our last type of pattern would be an arch. This is only found in about 5% of our population, so not as popular. So if you look, the ridges come in, they go up, and they go out the other side of the finger. Same deal here, in one side, up the another side, and out. Now they have no deltas. This is one where you gotta be really careful because do you see right here? A lot of people wanna call that right there a delta, but it's not. Okay, it's just the ridges, how they formed. It appears to be a delta, but it is not classified as one. So a plain arch just kind of rolls in and out, whereas tented arches have that appearance of that delta. Okay, still coming up one side, out the others. All right, so quick wrap up. If I have no deltas, it's an arch. If I have 1 delta, it's a loop. 2 or more deltas, it's a whorl. Okay. So let's go ahead, let's try, see if you got these ones. So if I take a look at this and I'm looking at my right hand, put my thumb down. Do you see how the ridges come in one and out the other? Hopefully. I spy 1 delta. This is a loop. Okay. It does point to my left, to my thumb. Okay. Would that be ulnar or radial? Hopefully you are saying radial. All right, take a look here. I spy delta, delta, spin, spin. I got a double whorl. Boom. All right, take a look here. In, up, and around, and I have a delta. This is from a left hand, so it's pointing towards my pinky. Since it's coming from my pinky, I'm looking at an ulnar loop. All right, how about this one? Comes in one side, up, out the other side. No appearance of a delta there in the middle. So this one is just a plain arch. Okay. How about here? Delta, delta. So I know it's definitely a whorl, but it's which type? This one, I have a pretty perfect circle with a dot. Would be a central pocket. All right, so when we get back after e-learning, you guys are going to be completing your own 10 print cards. So check that out. You guys are going to have your own from that. And so you will actually be rolling your own fingerprints and getting every finger, all 10. And then you'll also have your prints here, here, and here at the end. Okay? So that's going to be when you guys come back. So you also have one additional notes resource for you. I would add this to Notability, or at least save it so you can reference it. It has additional information about your patent, your latent, and your plastic prints. It has additional information about APHIS. It has all your pictures. Okay. So if you're looking at these, all your pictures for radial, ulnar loops, your types of whorls, and your tented arches, as well as your quick, if it has 1 delta, 0 deltas, or 2 or more deltas, to be able to identify it. So that is a really good resource. You want to hang on to that so that you can use it on the eventual test. Okay? Alrighty, well, that is it for today. Hope you guys have a great one.